Hello and welcome back to the Darth Magog channel. I'm your host, the Dark Lord of the Apostates, Darth Magog. Religions and their practices are very often central to the lives of many people around the world. They provide comfort, charity, culture, and a sense of community to billions. But what happens when your religion and all that comes with it is stripped away from you in the blink of an eye? That's what we'll be exploring today, with fan favorites from different fictional religions: Ahsoka Tano, former Jedi Knight in training, and Din Djarin, Mandalorian Bounty Hunter. We will look at how their expulsion from the religions of their youth affected them, and how it mirrors real-world religious groups with similar practices, namely Jehovah's Witnesses. Get ready to jump to hyperspace as we tackle what Star Wars teaches us about apostates. We would be honored if you would join us. For the three apostates in today's video, we'll need to examine their religious origins. Yes, I said three apostates. Who's the third? Well, you're looking right at him. Just as Ahsoka Tano will represent the Jedi Order, and as Din Djarin will represent the Way of the Mandalore, yours truly will represent the Christian congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses. We'll review each religion's beliefs in brief. The Jedi, as you may be well aware, are an order of samurai space wizards who live like monks in their various temples. They believe in the Force and are aligned with the light side, sometimes known as the Ashla. These Jedi serve the light and protect the galaxy with the goal of bringing balance to the Force through their Chosen One and his prophecy. The Jedi believed in peace, knowledge, serenity, harmony, and above all else, the Force.
Luminous beings, Zoe, not this crude matter.
The Way of the Mandalore, otherwise known as the Way, is an orthodox Mandalorian religion. It was practiced by traditionalist clans and tribes, including the Children of the Watch, a splinter group of the Clone Wars' own Death Watch. The faith was centered around the honoring of Mandalorian heritage and ancestry, while imparting the beliefs to the next generation, whether they be by blood or by adoption. Key tenets included protecting Mandalore and its people, maintaining a code of honor, and never removing one's helmet in the presence of another. Also, always being strapped.
I'm a Mandalorian. Weapons are part of my religion.
Jehovah's Witnesses are a restorationist sect of Christianity. Splintered from the Bible students, the modern religion believes in Jehovah God as the sovereign of the universe and his son Jesus Christ. Jesus, sometimes known in the faith as Michael the Archangel, yes really, is thought to be invisibly ruling in heaven as king and will make it known visibly after the Battle of Armageddon. This holy war will result in the destruction of all evil, the final defeat of Satan, and ultimately a paradise earth where mankind will live in perfect health and harmony for all eternity.
Well, I'm one of Jehovah's Witnesses, and we believe the Bible teaches sex is for a man and a woman who are married.
Intolerant people.
There's a lot more to the three religions than what I've mentioned, and for more in-depth looks at them, you can check out my original Jedi and Jehovah video from last May the 4th. Also, if you want an in-depth video about the Way of the Mandalore, drop a like on this video. If we get 1,000 likes on this one, I'll do it. Regardless, they all have several aspects in common: a very strict code of morals, mandatory full-time commitment to the community, relative isolation from the outside world, and most importantly, these religions all demand total commitment and control of your day-to-day life. Whether it's the peacekeeping duties of a Jedi Knight, the dress code of a Mandalorian supercommando, or the hectic meeting schedule of a Jehovah's Witness brother, this religion is your life. And that religious life is something none of these orders fear taking from you. For today's video, we're going to need to clarify some terms. We'll start with the word apostate. An apostate is one who commits apostasy, better known as either 1. An act of refusing to continue to follow, obey, or recognize a religious faith, or 2. An abandonment of a previous loyalty akin to a defection. Simply put, to be an apostate, you need to leave a belief or cause behind. That's the dictionary definition anyway. As always, Jehovah's Witnesses have their own version of the word. To a Jehovah's Witness, an apostate is someone who abandons or deserts the worship and service of God and is considered a rebel against Jehovah God himself. This is very similar to how the Mandalorians see an apostate. If a child of the Watch or any practitioner of the Way is seen breaking their code in any way, they are no longer considered a Mandalorian at all. We'll discuss that more later. The Jedi take this one step further. These former Jedi are seen as having fallen to the dark side, meaning they are considered fallen from grace at best, and at worst are enemies of the Order. The Jedi took this so seriously in the past that it led to splinter factions, including their sworn enemies, the Dark Lords of the Sith. What's the difference between a religion and a cult? Religions are a part of your life. Cults are the whole of your life. Even mundane, day-to-day activities are shaped and molded by these belief systems, to the point where your autonomy and agency have vanished and they're replaced with that of the cults. They become strict rules and regulations rather than sound moral or ethical guidance, and if you don't follow these rules and regulations, the consequences are dire. Disfellowshipping is a common concept in Christian religions. Known in some faiths as excommunication, the disfellowshipping practice in Jehovah's Witnesses tends to go a little deeper. In short, being disfellowshipped as a Jehovah's Witness happens when you don't follow the rules or regulations of the religion. This can be something as serious as committing a crime, like a robbery or homicide, or it can be something that's a bit more innocuous. Things like missing religious observances for work or school, or loving a person of your same-sex agenda. And of course, wait for it, if you don't believe what your religion says is true. Either way, if the religion finds you unrepentant for such a transgression, you'll be removed from the worldwide congregation, and members will be expected to shun you, meaning they can't have any social, spiritual, or in some cases even professional contact with you. The Jehovah's Witnesses are very much like the Jedi and the Way, in that they're insular and community-focused. The Jedi, for example, went out of their way to strip Ahsoka Tano, Jedi Padawan and Commander in the Clone Wars, of everything she had.
Your Padawan status will be stripped from you, and you shall forfeit all rank and privileges within the Grand Army of the Republic. You will be turned over to the Republic courts to await your trial, and whatever punishment they will set for you. Henceforth, you are barred from the Jedi Order.
This left Ahsoka with no friends, no money, no family, no ship, no authority, and with a massive terrorism case at her feet. And this is when she wasn't guilty of it. Din Djarin, in a similar manner, was banished from the Mandalorians after not only completing his quest, but obtaining the Darksaber and the right to rule Mandalore.
Have you ever removed your helmet?
I have.
Then you are a Mandalorian no more.
An action that hurt no one in attendance, but it was enough in the faith to have Din ousted from it. Regardless, that left these very different apostates with an essential choice in their life: where to go next. One direction an apostate from a high control group can go is the secular route. Ahsoka Tano willingly left the Jedi Order after her name was cleared. Unfortunately, even on these terms, she didn't have much more than the clothes on her back.
I can fix my own bike. I just need some tools.
Have it your way, but the tools are still gonna cost you.
I don't have much in the way of credits.
Her challenges didn't end with the lack of resources. Alone now, Ahsoka had to rebuild everything from the ground up. Her relationships were a good example. While Ahsoka had limited connections to her old Jedi family, she still struggled with them wanting her around.
What do you mean?
I'm sorry, citizen. These matters are for the Council to discuss.
This is in line with a doctrine in Jehovah's Witnesses called bad association. in which they consider any friendship with non-Jehovah's Witnesses or those outside the Christian congregation to be dangerous. Eventually, Ahsoka was able to make new friends, like the Master Sisters and the Ghost Crew. She, over time, also recovered a few of her other relationships, specifically Captain Rex, Senator Bail Organa, and even Anakin Skywalker himself for a time. And she achieved this feat by not compromising her values and seeking out like-minded individuals. Ahsoka valued ingenuity, patience, and protecting the innocent, even when it wasn't what she was supposed to be doing at the time. Ex-Jehovah's Witnesses and other former members of high-demand religions can take this lesson for themselves. While it is challenging to start from fresh, you'll soon find that there's kindness in the real world. There are people who will share your values, and sometimes, if you're lucky, the good people from your past will make it to a better future along with you. Another fascinating challenge for Ahsoka was reclaiming her spirituality. While Ahsoka repeatedly indicated she was no longer a member of her order,
revenge is not the Jedi way.
I am no Jedi.
She didn't let the Jedi keep her spirituality from her. The former Jedi continued to meditate, serve her community, and fight for what was right. She even built a new set of lightsabers with a pair of unique white color crystals. It's notable that the Ahsoka novel described these as being purified by the Force, after she defeated the Inquisitor known as the Sixth Brother in one-to-one combat. She also continued to mentor new Jedi, such as Luke Skywalker, the son of her own former master, as well as his first apprentice, Din Grogu the Child, who, coincidentally, left the Jedi Order to join the way of the Mandalore. This was also an aspect that I like. Unlike Jehovah's Witnesses, who insist that you ignore former members, or frankly, anyone critical of the religion.
Did you look at those links that I sent you?
Mum, I want us to get together, but I won't hear anything negative about my beliefs.
The new Jedi Order were open to interaction with non-Jedi, even in matters of the spirit. Learning that you can still have your own faith and practice in your own way is a comfort in itself. While some who leave their religions feel a relief that there isn't an almighty judgy parent hovering over you at all times, some do want the warmth that such a proposed protection would provide. It's important to note, however, that if spirituality isn't important to you, you don't need to pursue it. Unlike a Jedi, who can regularly demonstrate that their theology is correct, even if their interpretation of doctrine isn't always, Jehovah's Witnesses' beliefs are still just that, beliefs. So there's nothing to be ashamed of whether you choose to believe in a power beyond what we know here on Earth or not. Din Djarin, on the other hand, elected to make a different choice after his expulsion from the Children of the Watch. In a bizarre twist of fate, after finishing his greatest challenge and winning the right to rule Mandalore back from the evil Empire, Din was faced with an issue: his face. The bounty hunter had revealed his face in front of another sentient being after his battle with Moff Gideon. This is a severe sin in Mandalorian culture, and it resulted in him being removed from the group. As a result, he was forced to go on a quest of redemption. This quest included traveling back to his irradiated, bombed-out home planet, then hunting for an unstable crystal cave system full of ravenous aliens and monsters, before finally making it to the underground pool, where he nearly drowned and potentially could have been killed by a giant alien mosasaur. Ultimately, Din was restored to his former place in the tribe, where he proceeded to prove himself by participating in rituals and the occasional rescue of children from giant monsters. In a similar manner, an ex-Jehovah's Witness that decides to return to the Kingdom Hall is faced with their own trials and tribulations. Though instead of a rebaptism at a holy site and having to fight cannibal cyborgs, the disfellowshipped witness would need to demonstrate true repentance, meaning whatever sin was committed needs to be discontinued. Additionally, a witness seeking reinstatement would continue their personal and Watchtower study, continue attending Kingdom Home meetings, and keep regular contact with the elders for their progress as outlined in the October 2021 Watchtower. It's worth noting that no matter what your previous status was in the religion, the process outlined is the same. Funnily, Din Djarin was the owner of a powerful artifact in Mandalorian culture called the Darksaber, a special lightsaber forged by the common ancestor and spiritual leader Tar Vizsla. It was later used as a sign of leadership among the Mandalorians, especially the Death Watch and the Night Owls. In a similar manner, Jehovah's Witness elders can also be ejected. Spiritual leader Raymond Franz, who was a governing body member, was ejected due to allegations of apostasy and associating with someone who had left the religion. The big difference between the witnesses and the Way was the flexibility that the leadership showed. Prominent members like Paz Vizsla and the Armorer recognized the value of Din's journeys and willingness to work with others, like his adopted son, Din Grogu, a former Jedi Padawan. And of course, Bo-Katan Kryze, former member of the royal family and previous leader of the Death Watch splinter faction, the Night Owls. Ultimately, through Din's determination, dedication, and growing receptivity to new ideas, the Mandalorians reunited under Bo-Katan's leadership and were able to banish the Empire from their homeworld of Mandalore. Jehovah's Witnesses are not proponents of working with others. In addition to their usual take of being isolationists, the faith vehemently denies interfaith services and projects. The March 2014 Watchtower article named Interfaith, Is It God's Way? Claims that the Bible speaks out against the practice of interfaith, something to do with harmony between Christ and Belial, and commonality between a believer and non-believer. Though I'm certain that unbelievers and believers can have common grounds and values and interests, as demonstrated in interfaith marriages and Jehovah's Witnesses themselves. But we won't discuss that. So, what is there to get from all of this? What have we learned from these abridgments of Ahsoka and Din's journey through their faith, or lack thereof? Through Ahsoka, we learn that the organization isn't the important part of your spirituality. You can live a healthy, ethical life without directly associating yourself with a church, organization, or group. Your values belong to you, your beliefs are personal, and your deeds are your own. We learn that it's okay to leave behind the bad of your past, but take the good with you. That you can come back to those positive memories and relationships, but don't have to take back the burden of high control. Ahsoka gives us the freedom to choose. Through Mando's journey, we learn that traditions are a good baseline, but they alone will not adapt to the wider world around us. Change is a constant in the world, or in Din Djarin's case, the big galaxy around him. We learn that you can have your traditions and invite others to partake in them without forcing them to live exclusively by your standards. His observation and support of Bo-Katan's walking of both worlds shows us that change is possible, and the results can be immediately enriching. Through that one act, a world shattered was restored, and a people scattered were united. Din reminds us that religion is made by us, for us. Jehovah's Witness literature does not come to those conclusions about their own religion. While it is objectively true that Jehovah's Witnesses believe it is permissible to change religions, it's also true that they believe leaving Jehovah is a burdensome sin. The October 1st, 1970 Watchtower article advises readers to make an honest appraisal of their way of worship, citing unequal treatment, inconsistent teachings, and a lack of warmth as reasons to leave a religion. And in the same decade, 1979, the Watchtower published another article entitled, "Those Leaving Jehovah Will Perish." And it's exactly what it says on the tin. In short, it's okay to change your religious beliefs as long as they match those printed by the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society. This rigid adherence to their beliefs and teachings has stagnated Watchtower growth the entirety of this decade and much of the previous. An issue that the organization is scrambling to correct as they struggle to find new leadership in a religion with a dwindling base of young people. No matter what you do as a former Jehovah's Witness, the best thing you can do is not to overcommit. I believe the streamer Vosh said it best. In fact, hang on, let me just clip some of his stream.
Do not overcommit to social spaces where the purpose of the social space is not the love and affection and care the people within that group have for each other.
To sum up, you can't build deep bonds simply on a shared interest. And I really like that thought process, because in a good relationship, at least in my experience, having a shared interest at best is only a third of the pie. Actually having shared values is the most important, and in more romantic relationships, shared attraction is also important. Ideologies change, and so do interests, and if that was your only bridge, then you can consider it burned, just like this religion. In other words, if you're in a group, whether it's a religion, Discord server, group chat, or what have you, if love and care isn't the center, don't overcommit. This doesn't mean you shouldn't get involved in social spaces. Those can be critical for your recovery. Shared interests are a good gateway into new relationships, whether they're platonic or not. But overcommitting to one interest or space puts you at risk of mimicking your position in the Witnesses, where you're isolated from anyone else who isn't like-minded and therefore dependent on that group. And that's what I'd like to see Jehovah's Witnesses realize as a former member myself, that there can be balance, that there doesn't need to be animosity because someone's interests change or their ideology change. There's nothing wrong with associating with someone who leads an ethical life just because they don't believe in your God. There's nothing wrong with learning about other faiths and cultures. That it can be enriching to either oneself or your community as a whole, whereas continuing down the path of isolationist, authoritarian, patriarchal dogma will stagnate at best and self-destruct at worst. To conclude, my XJW agents, at the risk of sounding schmaltzy, life is not over after Watchtower, it's just beginning. And while it may be a challenge to adjust to your newfound power, it is yours, and only you can wield it. You'd also do well to remember this. The elders may be watching you, but Darth Magog is watching the Watchtower.